As I'm making this video, Apple has just released the public beta of macOS 26, which means that if you've got a compatible Mac, you can now try out the new version of macOS for yourself a couple of months ahead of its full release in September. Now, I'll talk more in a moment about a few things that you might want to think about before downloading it, but if you've already decided to go ahead and install it, here are the things I think you should check out first. Okay, let's get into it. Before we get into the main part of the video, let's just do a quick bit of housekeeping. First up, macOS 26 is only going to be compatible with the devices that you can see on screen now. I'm not going to read them all out. I'll just leave this up for a moment so you can check if your Mac is supported. And if you're not sure which Mac you're using, the easiest way to find out is to click the Apple logo in the top left corner of your screen and choose About this Mac. That will tell you the model and year, so you can quickly check if your machine is compatible. Next thing to say is that this is still a beta. It's the public beta rather than the developer beta, which means it should be more stable, but it's still early software and you should treat it with a bit of caution. I'd strongly recommend installing this on a spare Mac if you've got one, rather than the machine that you rely on every day, and definitely make sure that you have a backup in place before you install anything. Also, just a quick note on how to access the beta. You'll need to open any web browser and go to beta.apple.com. Then just press the blue sign up button and log in with your Apple ID. That will register you for the public beta program. And if you've done this in previous years, you don't need to do it again. It is a one-time thing. Once that's done, head into System Settings on the Mac that you want to update. Choose General from the sidebar, then Software Update. Tap into the Beta Update section, press the Info button and choose the macOS 26 public beta. Press Done, wait for your Mac to check for updates, and once the update is found, just follow the prompts to install it. Okay, so let's talk features. And the first one that we've got to talk about is the complete visual overhaul that Apple has rolled out in macOS 26. This is what they're calling liquid glass, and it's a pretty big departure from what we've had before. You'll notice a lot more transparency throughout the system, rounded corners everywhere, and a general sense of layering where that glass effect really kicks in. Now, since the first developer beta, Apple has already dialed this back a little. So if you're using the public beta, you're seeing a more toned down version than what developers saw initially. But if this is your first time using it and you're finding that it still doesn't quite work for you, there is a setting that you can change. Head into System Settings, choose Accessibility from the sidebar, then click into Display. Right at the top of the screen, you'll see an option called Reduce Transparency. Toggle that on, and you'll notice an immediate difference. Things like the dock, the menu bar, and the new control center will all become much easier to see without that heavy glass effect sitting behind them. It is completely down to personal preference, but if you find the transparency a little bit too hard to work with, this is a great way to tone it down without losing the rest of the design changes. The control center in macOS 26 has had a complete redesign, and it now finally matches the control center that you'll be used to from your iPhone. And honestly, I think that's a really good thing. I've always used Control Center quite a lot on my Mac, but I've always found it frustrating, mostly because of how limited and rigid it was. So it's great that we've now got some actual flexibility here. You'll notice the difference straight away when you click into it. Aside from the liquid glass visual update, the main thing to look for is the new Edit Controls button down at the bottom. When you press this, a new window pops up showing all the available controls that you can add. You can filter them down using the buttons on the left, search using the box up at the top, or just scroll through until you find something useful. So let's say that I want to add Record Screen to my control center. I just hit the little green plus icon next to it, and I get the option to add it to the control center or directly to the menu bar. I'll choose Add to Control Center. And here's a nice touch. If your control center is already full, macOS will automatically create an additional page. That shows up as a separate button in your menu bar, so you can just click to jump between pages. You can also right-click on any control and change its size. The default is small, a single tile, but you can go for medium for a 1x2 layout or large for a 2x2. I'll leave this one set to medium. And that's it. Now I've got quick access to screen recording straight from my control center. Honestly, this is a really welcome addition and something that I think should have been on the Mac a long time ago, so I'm glad it's finally here. By the way, do you ever find yourself watching videos like this, picking up loads of useful Mac tips, but then completely forgetting them when you actually need them? If that sounds familiar, you should definitely check out my new training portal, Mac Essentials Plus. It's the follow-up to the iPhone Essentials Plus portal that I launched earlier this year, and the idea is really simple. You log in, choose a module that covers a particular area of your Mac, and inside each module, you'll find short, focused lessons. Every lesson comes with a video walkthrough, a step-by-step guide with screenshots, and a downloadable PDF. So however you like to learn, you're covered. There are already over 200 lessons inside the portal, and more are being added regularly. I'm also in the process of updating everything to make sure it's ready for macOS 26 when that launches later this year. No ads, no sponsors, just content, and it's available for a one-time price. No subscription, no ongoing monthly payments. And if you want to go even further, you can bundle it with the iPhone Essentials course to get the best deal possible. If you're interested, just scan the QR code on screen or follow the link in the video description or the pinned comment. There's now a brand new phone app on your Mac, and it honestly makes a lot of sense. Thanks to continuity, you've probably already noticed that if your phone is nearby, you can send messages or make calls from your Mac without needing to pick up your phone at all. And now, with this dedicated phone app, Apple has made that whole experience even easier. You open it just like any other app. It lives in the app library, and when it launches, you'll see your favorites listed at the top of the screen on the left. This isn't just a list of favorite contacts, it's also showing your preferred method of communicating with them. So in my case, I've got Matt showing with a message icon next to his name. If I double click on that, it will start a message conversation. But John just next to him has a phone icon, which means double clicking will initiate a phone call. The call itself is routed through the iPhone, but everything happens on the Mac. Underneath that, you've got your recents, and this works exactly like it does on your iPhone, showing you calls that you've made, received, or missed. Up in the top left, near the traffic lights, there's a filter button. Clicking on this lets you filter by type, so you can view just your missed calls, voicemails, or even spam calls if that's enabled for you. There's also a Manage Filtering button here, and tapping that takes you into the phone app settings. One really useful feature here is the ability to screen unknown callers. You can choose to have your Mac automatically answer unknown numbers and ask the caller for more information before putting the call through to you. If it's someone important, you'll get the details, and if it's just another spam call, you won't be interrupted. You can also access a dial pad by clicking the dial button, which is handy if you want to punch in a number manually. And there are a couple of other clever features built in too, like Hold Assist. This is where your Mac recognizes that you've been placed on hold, and it will monitor the call for you. When a real person finally comes back on the line, your Mac will ask them to wait for a moment while it notifies you to rejoin the call. It's really smart, and in the tests that I've done so far, it works surprisingly well. Anything that saves me time waiting on hold is definitely a win in my book. Undoubtedly, the biggest change that I think is going to have a positive impact on most Mac users is the enormous improvement to Spotlight Search. Now, if you don't tend to use Spotlight Search, just as a reminder, you can access it by pressing Command and the spacebar. You'll see the familiar Spotlight bar appear in the middle of your screen. So in previous versions of macOS, the way that most people used Spotlight was to just type in a term and hope that their Mac would bring up the right file, app, or web result. But the problem with that was it often returned too many results. It made it hard to zero in on exactly what you were looking for. That's what's changed in macOS 26. Apple has made it much, much easier to narrow your search and find what you need quickly. So first things first, you're going to want to learn the 4 keyboard shortcuts that correspond to the new sections of Spotlight. With Spotlight open, press Command and 1 to access your applications. You'll now be able to scroll through a list of all your apps, or use the filters at the top, or just start typing to locate the one that you want. Press Command and 2, and now you're in the File section. Same idea here, recent files appear by default, but you can search for something specific just by typing. Command and 3 is where things start to get interesting. This is the Action section. I'll come back to this in a moment because there's quite a lot to say about it. And Command and 4 gives you access to your clipboard. And yes, that now includes clipboard history, which I'll also talk about in a second. But let's go back to the main Spotlight bar for a moment, because even without switching to any of these 4 sections, the general improvements are huge. For example, let's say that I'm looking for something about a contract. If I just type the word contract, Spotlight will bring up everything. But if I know that I'm looking for an email about a contract, I can just type contract email. No special formatting, No complicated syntax, my Mac will figure it out and prioritize emails that contain the word contract. I can then use the mail filter under the search bar to further narrow it down. Same thing goes for files. If I'm looking for a PDF of a job offer, I can just type job offer PDF and my Mac does a great job of finding it. No messing around with extensions or special phrases. It's just a massive improvement over how Spotlight used to work. Now let's take a look at those two extra features that I mentioned, Actions and Clipboard. Let's talk about the Actions tab first. So this is what you get when you press Command and 3 while Spotlight is open. And the idea here is really clever. Spotlight can now show you a list of actions that your Mac is capable of performing, almost like built-in shortcuts. You'll see options for things like sending a message, starting a timer, creating a new note, even running actions inside third-party apps if they support it. So for example, I could open Spotlight, go to the Actions tab and type voice memo. I'd get an option to create a new voice recording. And the really useful bit is that I can assign a quick key to that action. So in this case, I might type in something like MEM as my shortcut. Now whenever I press Command and Space to open Spotlight and type mem, it will immediately start a new voice memo recording. You can do this for any of the actions in the list. Just assign a quick key and you've got instant access from Spotlight. Now let's jump into Clipboard, which you access by pressing Command and 4. And this one is a game changer. Your Mac will now remember your clipboard history for up to 8 hours. So if you copy something but forget to paste it, or you copy something else in the meantime, you can go back into Spotlight and retrieve it. You'll see a list of the things that you've copied recently, and you can just click on any of them to recopy and then paste again. I use this all the time for things like publishing videos to YouTube, where I might need to paste the same bits of text into multiple places. Previously, I used a third-party app to manage this, but now it's built right into Spotlight, and it works brilliantly. This new version of Spotlight really feels like it's been rebuilt from the ground up, not just for better search, but as a proper command center for your Mac, and I think it's one of the biggest quality of life upgrades in macOS 26. A feature that Apple has added not only to the Mac, but to any of their devices that support messages, so that's the iPhone and iPad as well, is the ability to add polls directly within a message thread. And honestly, it's about time. This is something that apps like WhatsApp and Telegram have had for ages, and it makes group decisions so much easier, especially when you're in group chats, trying to organize plans or get feedback. So to use it, just open up any chat and press the plus button in the bottom left corner. You'll now see a new option called Polls. Tap on that, and a new poll interface will pop up. By default, you'll get 3 choices, but you can easily add more or remove any that you don't need. Just type in each option. For example, something like pizza, sushi, burgers if you're trying to decide on food. When you're ready, hit the return key and your poll will be inserted into the chat. You can also add a comment to go along with it before you send it if you want to give your group some context. Once it's sent, everyone in the thread can quickly vote and you'll see the results come in real time, which is really handy. The only catch here right now is that everyone in the group does need to be running the latest version of Apple's operating system. So that means macOS 26, iOS 26, or iPadOS 26 in order for the poll to work. So for now, this might just be a fun thing to play around with while more people upgrade. But come September, when the full public rollout hits, this is going to be one of those small but really useful additions that make a massive difference to day-to-day messaging. A really interesting new feature has just been added to the Reminders app, and it's exclusive to Macs that are capable of running Apple Intelligence. So that's any Apple Mac with Apple Silicon inside. If your device supports it, you'll now see a new Auto Categorise option when you right-click on a list in the Reminders sidebar. This option appears with an Apple Intelligence icon next to it, and what it does is use artificial intelligence to automatically sort your reminders into categories. So if you're someone who tends to just throw thoughts and to-dos into a single running list without much structure, this can be a really helpful way to bring some order to the chaos. I think it's clear that Apple has taken on board a lot of the negative feedback from last year's Photos app redesign, and in my opinion, they've done a really solid job of keeping all the best parts of that update while also addressing the main frustrations that people had with it. One of the most immediate improvements that you'll notice on the Mac is the way that the app is now laid out. In the top left corner of the sidebar, you've got 2 distinct buttons, Library and Collections. So if you're just looking to browse your most recent photos, head to Library. But if you want to start digging into categories, like people, places, or media types, you'll go into collections. Once you're in there, it's all about navigating to what you want, but one of the features that I've really appreciated is the ability to pin specific collections to the sidebar. For example, let's say that you go into the media type section and right-click on videos. You'll see the option to pin, and once you select that, the videos collection will now show up as its own section in the sidebar. You can then drag that pinned item to the top of your sidebar if it's something that you use a lot, making it really quick to access. The same applies for things in the utilities section too. So if receipts, for example, is something that you find yourself going back to often, just pin it, and now it's always one click away. It's a really simple tweak, but one that makes the Photos app feel more flexible and user-friendly than it has in quite a while. And finally, the Journal app has now come to both the iPad and the Mac, meaning that it's no longer an iPhone-only feature. And I think that's a really good move. The biggest thing that stopped me from using the Journal app when it first launched was that it only worked on the iPhone, and I just don't enjoy typing anything substantial on my phone. When you open it on the Mac, the interface is clean and easy to use, very similar to Apple's other built-in apps. You've got a sidebar that you can toggle on or off. You can access your insights, and if you've enabled location tracking, you can view entries by the places that they were created. You can also create additional journals by hitting the plus button in the sidebar. So if you want to keep a dedicated fitness journal or have something for work that stays separate from your personal thoughts, it's really easy to set up. Just give it a name, choose a color and an icon, and it's good to go. Then to create an entry, select the journal that you want and hit the plus button at the top of the screen. You can give it a title, write your thoughts, add photos straight from your photo library, add a location, and even record audio. And the really clever part is that your Mac will transcribe that audio automatically for you. It's a great app that I always liked the idea of, but just couldn't see myself using on the iPhone. Now that it's available on the Mac, something that I genuinely see myself getting much more use out of. So there you go. Those are the 8 things that I think you should check out first when you upgrade to the public beta of macOS 26. Even aside from the visual overhaul this year, I think Apple has done a really good job with some much needed quality of life improvements and fixes. What about you? What have you been most impressed by so far? Or are you holding off until the public release in September? If you are, what are you most looking forward to trying out? Let me know in the comments. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.